In just another example of how media framing often sides with large corporations and against the average worker, the Toronto Star implicitly blamed striking workers for a potential rise in the price of beef. So it started with this tweet here, and I'll get into the story as well, but this is a series of 5 tweets. And over these 5 tweets, they do not mention why this strike is happening. But here's their first tweet that says, a possible strike at one of Canada's largest meat processing plants will almost certainly increase beef prices for consumers on a product that is already prohibitively expensive for a growing number of Canadians. Now, what is this telling the reader? This is communicating that, oh, if the cost of beef increases, then you can blame these striking workers. And over the course of these 5 tweets, they do not make any different argument. They don't say why they're striking. They don't bring up what I'm going to bring up shortly in terms of profits that are being made, in terms of how they treated workers during the pandemic. None of that is brought up. But here, this is, again, another example in how the media frames these issues, whether it's intentional or not. But this is the reality. This Cargill reported, this is article from this year, August 6, 2021. Biggest profit in 156-year history. This isn't mentioned in the tweets, isn't mentioned in the piece at all, but instead, they blame the workers. But this is also a company which counts 14 billionaires. 14 billionaires among its ruling circle. Again, not mentioned in the tweets or in the piece. What they do mention, though, check what they mention here. Cargill is accepting a wage increase for workers, or Cargill accepting a wage increase for workers could also increase the price of beef. So it's not enough to blame striking workers for a potential rise in the price of beef. They also have to go even further and say, well, if Cargill did give in and increase their wages as one of the things they're calling for, then that may still impact the price of beef. So you can still blame the workers, even if this strike doesn't go through, or if it ends and Cargill actually gives the workers what they deserve, well, you can still blame the workers for a rise in the price of beef. It is absolutely ridiculous to frame a story this way when this company has made record profits in its entire history. Here's the graph here. Record profits in its entire history, and it's 14 billionaires in control of the company. It's freaking unbelievable to me. Now, there's more. There's more that, of course, was not mentioned in the Toronto Star piece. So this is from Simon Black, who is let me get his actual title here. He's a Brock University labor professor. So he shares here, remarkably, the story fails to mention plant had largest COVID outbreak linked to a single site in North America. 900 plus workers tested positive. Tragically, 3 died. Cargill repeatedly ignored requests from union to discuss health and safety. They also refused union requests to waive sick note requirements and up sanitization and decrease line speeds. Waited 2 days to report first COVID case to union and public health. Ignored union request for 2-week closure of plant as cases rose. And Alberta Ministry of Labor greenlit Cargill's health and safety measures. So again, all of this not mentioned in the piece. The piece heavily weighted in favor of this massive corporation and against the workers. And this is a graph I want to bring up here because this is very important, I think, to understanding just the importance of unions when it comes to the working class as a whole. I've referenced this countless times, but I think it clearly shows you the importance of stronger unions. So this is from the Economic Policy Institute saying here, as union membership declines, income inequality increases. So this is union membership and share of income going to the top 10%, 1917 to 2019. You see here, as the share of income goes to the top 10%, union membership declines. Or I should say it's the other way around. As union membership declines, the share of income going to the top 10% increases. Because these two are directly linked. This kind of information, this kind of graph, this data, this is what needs to be included in stories like the one in the Toronto Star. Because that gives you a true indication of why we have to be in support of the working class. The whole point of these sorts of papers, of journalism, is to side with the vast majority of people, is to look out for the average person. But what we often see instead is that these massive media companies are on the side of massive corporations and against the working class. We see this again and again. And again, whether this is done intentionally or not doesn't really matter, because this is the way that things have been done now for at least a couple decades in terms of how they frame these stories. So a lot of it, I think, is just unintentional. This is how they view these issues. But it also goes into the hiring decisions, who they hire, who they don't hire. And it also just gives you this clear indication that there really is not a strong labor voice, at least when it comes to mass media. Now, of course, yes, you can pick out story here and there that does properly represent the power or the need to have stronger unions, but those are far and few between. The vast majority of stories are on the side of massive corporations like this and against the working class.